Ryan Holt wiped the sweat off his forehead as he adjusted a loose panel on Outpost Vega 9. The deep space station floated in the void, a small dot against the endless darkness. He had been working on repairs all day, and all he wanted was a break. But just as he was about to head back inside, his communicator buzzed. "Ryan Holt, report to Docking Bay 3 immediately." Ryan sighed. "Can't a guy get 5 minutes to rest?" he muttered. Still, when command called, he had no choice. Walking through the steel corridors, he wondered what this was about. Vega 9 saw all kinds of visitors, traders, explorers, and even a few strange aliens, but something told him this wasn't a routine call. As he entered the docking bay, his guess proved right. Standing near a sleek, silver ship were two identical aliens. Their skin was a soft shade of violet, with smooth, flowing patterns across their arms. Each had 4 arms and large golden eyes that seemed to glow. They wore matching silver suits, and they moved almost at the same time, like reflections of each other. Ryan had met a lot of aliens, but he had never seen anything like this before. "Ryan Holt," one of them asked, her voice calm and even. "That's me," he replied. "And you are?" "I am Zyra. This is my twin, Xylo." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Twins, huh? You look identical." "We are Quinn," Zyra explained. "Our minds are linked. We think together, move together." Xylo nodded. "And we need your help." Ryan crossed his arms. "With what?" "There is a malfunction on our ship," Zyra said. "We attempted repairs, but we cannot do it ourselves." Ryan glanced at their ship. It looked well maintained, not the kind of vessel that would break down easily. "You've got 4 arms each," he pointed out. "You're probably better at fixing things than I am." Xylo frowned, looking slightly offended, but Zyra remained calm. "It is not about skill," she said. "It is about ability." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" Zyra took a step forward. "We Quinn share thoughts. When one of us acts, the other mirrors the action, even if we do not intend to. If one of us moves our right hand, the other moves their right hand as well. It is how our species has always functioned." Ryan blinked. "Wait, so you're saying you can't do 2 different things at the same time?" Zyra nodded. "Correct. Our ship's core system requires simultaneous adjustments in 2 places. If we try to do them, we end up repeating each other's actions instead of working independently. If we fail to fix the problem soon, our ship may be permanently damaged." Ryan rubbed his chin. He had heard of alien species with strange biological quirks, but this was a first. "And you think I can help because you are human?" Xylo said. "We have observed your kind. You use each hand separately. You can perform 2 different actions at once without interference. To us, this is astonishing." Ryan smirked. "Multitasking, huh? You guys should see some of the crazy things humans do back on Earth." Xylo still looked doubtful, but Zyra seemed hopeful. "Will you help us?" she asked. Ryan looked at their worried expressions. He wasn't sure why, but he felt a strange sense of responsibility. Maybe it was because humans had a habit of stepping in when no one else could. He sighed. "All right, I'll take a look. But if this turns out to be something simple, you owe me a drink." Zyra smiled. "Agreed." As Ryan followed them onto the ship, he had no idea what he was getting himself into. But one thing was certain. This was going to be interesting. Ryan stepped inside the Celestial Harmony, the sleek ship belonging to the Quinn twins. The air inside was cooler than he expected, carrying a faint metallic scent. The walls were smooth and curved, glowing softly with blue light. The design was elegant, almost organic, nothing like the blocky, industrial ships humans built. Zyra and Xylo led him through the narrow corridors, their movements eerily synchronized. They didn't even have to speak to each other. They just seemed to know where to go. It was strange, but Ryan had seen enough weird things in space not to question it too much. After a short walk, they entered the engine control room. The space was filled with complex consoles, blinking lights, and large cylindrical structures that pulsed with energy. Ryan could hear a soft hum, but something about it didn't sound right. There was a faint, uneven stutter, like a machine struggling to function properly. Xylo pointed to a console near the left side of the room. This panel controls the power distribution system. Zira gestured to another console on the right. And this one controls the coolant flow. Ryan looked between them. Okay, and what's the problem? Zira walked over to the left console and placed her hands on the controls. Xylo did the same on the right. They both started working at the same time, moving their fingers swiftly across the panels. Within seconds, Ryan saw the issue. They were doing the exact same movements. Zira adjusted a dial on her console. Xylo did the same. Zira typed a command. Xylo copied it perfectly, even though his panel required a completely different input. Ryan let out a low whistle. Huh. So, no matter what, you guys can't work separately. Zira sighed and stepped back. We try. But the moment one of us focuses on a task, the other instinctively mirrors it. Even if we resist, our actions slowly become the same. Xylo clenched his fists. It is frustrating. We have trained, practiced, but our minds are connected too deeply. We are one, always. It is our strength, but also our weakness. Ryan scratched his head. And I'm guessing if these two systems don't get fixed at the same time, the whole ship goes down. Zira nodded. If power distribution is not balanced while coolant is regulated, the system will overload. If we adjust the coolant first, the ship will lose power. If we fix the power first, the engine will overheat. Ryan let out a small laugh. Well, you weren't kidding. You really do need someone who can handle two different tasks at once. Xylo crossed his arms. Do you think you can do it? Ryan stepped forward and cracked his knuckles. Guess we're about to find out. The challenge begins. Ryan took a seat between the two consoles, stretching his arms toward both panels. It felt a little awkward at first. He wasn't used to controlling two different systems at once. Usually, engineers worked in teams, with one person focusing on one problem at a time. But Ryan had been fixing things his whole life. Back on Earth, he had worked on mechanical exosuits, where one hand adjusted internal wiring while the other checked digital readings. He had played instruments, written reports while eating, even piloted small ships while managing radio communications. Humans, by nature, were good at multitasking. It was something most species didn't appreciate. Until now. Zira watched closely. You must regulate power flow with your left hand while adjusting the coolant balance with your right. If you mistime it, the ship's core will become unstable. Ryan smirked. No pressure, huh? He placed his left hand on the power panel and his right hand on the coolant controls. Taking a deep breath, he began. At first, it felt unnatural. His brain wanted to focus on one hand at a time, but he knew that wouldn't work. Instead, he had to trust his instincts, letting each hand move independently. He adjusted a power dial with his left hand, carefully increasing energy flow. At the same time, his right hand tweaked a coolant valve, keeping the temperature stable. The screen flashed warnings. If he moved too fast, the balance would break. Too slow, and the engine might stall. Zira and Xylo stood in silent amazement. He's doing it, Zira whispered. Ryan chuckled. You guys ever hear about playing the drums? One hand keeps a steady beat, the other does something completely different. Takes practice, but it's not impossible. Zira tilted her head. Drums. Ryan shook his head. Never mind. Just keep an eye on the readings. The unexpected problem. For a moment, everything seemed to be going well. The ship's systems stabilized, and the warning lights dimmed. Ryan was just about to declare victory when VEPP, VEP, VEP. A loud alarm blared through the ship. The lights turned red, and the screen flashed a new message. Unauthorized system interference, DETCTED. Security losiki devon engaged. Ryan looked at the twins. Tell me that's normal. A loud clang echoed through the ship as the doors slammed shut, sealing Ryan and the Sci-Fi twins inside the engine room. The once steady hum of the ship's systems turned into a deep, unsettling growl, vibrating through the floor. The soft blue lights flickered, replaced by an eerie red glow. Ryan glanced at the control panels. The screens flashed a warning. Unauthorized system interference, DETCTED. Security losiki devon engaged. He turned to Zura and Xylo. All right, I was here to fix an engine, not get trapped in a haunted spaceship. What's going on? Xylo's golden eyes darkened. This was not an accident. Zura quickly scanned the controls, her fingers moving across the screen. Someone overrode our security systems. This ship isn't just malfunctioning. It was sabotage. Ryan exhaled sharply. Great, just great. A hidden enemy. Ryan pulled out his multi-tool and pried open a side panel. Let me guess. You two don't have enemies, do you? Zura hesitated. Not exactly. But there are those who oppose what we are doing. Ryan paused. And what exactly are you doing? Xylo's voice was tense. The Sci-Fi people are divided. Some believe we should remain isolated, relying only on ourselves. Others, like us, believe in working with other species, learning from them, sharing knowledge. Zira nodded. Our ship was sent to meet with a council to discuss an alliance with humanity. If we succeed, it would prove that cooperation makes us stronger. But if we fail, Ryan's mind raced. Then the isolationists win. They'll use this failure to prove their point. Xylo clenched his fists. Yes. Ryan let out a frustrated sigh. So someone on this ship wants you to fail. And they just locked us in here so we wouldn't stop them. Cracking the lockdown, Ryan returned his focus to the panel. Okay, we don't have time to sit around. If we're locked in, there's gotta be a way to override it. He quickly examined the wiring, following the paths on his handheld scanner. The security system had been activated remotely, but the manual override was still functional. The problem: the override system was on two separate consoles, one on the left side of the room, one on the right. Of course. Ryan sighed. Let me guess. These controls need to be activated at the same time, don't they? Zira checked the readings. Yes, a code must be entered on each console simultaneously to disable the lockdown. Ryan glanced at them. And let me guess again. If you two try it, you'll end up mirroring each other instead of entering two different codes. Silo gritted his teeth. Yes. Ryan shook his head. You guys seriously need to learn how to work separately. Zira gave him a helpless look. That is why we came to you. Ryan smirked. Lucky for you, humans are pretty good at multitasking. A race against time. He positioned himself between the two consoles, stretching out his arms. It was an awkward angle, but he had no choice. All right, Ryan muttered. Left hand, security code input. Right hand, system reset. Zira pulled up the code sequence. You will need to press the correct inputs at the exact same time, or the system will remain locked. Ryan nodded. Got it. The screen displayed a random series of commands, 2 different sequences. His brain screamed at him to focus on one task at a time, but he forced himself to split his attention. His left hand typed in the security passcode, while his right hand followed a completely different set of commands. His fingers moved quickly, making sure not to mix up the sequences. A single mistake could force a total ship-wide lockdown. The timer on the screen counted down. 15 seconds left. Zira and Xylo stood motionless, holding their breath. 10 seconds. Ryan's fingers flew across the consoles, his mind working at double speed. Left code, right reset. Left code, right reset. 5 seconds. Ryan hit the final inputs. The screens blinked green. A loud hiss echoed through the room as the lockdown lifted. The doors unsealed, and the red warning lights dimmed, returning to their original blue. Ryan exhaled. That was way too close. The saboteurs' next move. Before they could celebrate, Zyra's console flashed with a new warning. Her eyes widened. Ryan, the sabotage was not just the lockdown. Ryan's stomach dropped. What now? Silo read the data. The ship's navigation system has been compromised. We are no longer on course. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Wait, are you saying someone is steering us somewhere else? Zyra looked at him, her expression serious. Yes, and we do not know where. Ryan clenched his fists. Then we better find out. And fast. Ryan's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. The air inside the celestial harmony felt heavier now, filled with tension. The ship's navigation is compromised. He repeated, his voice steady but alert. What exactly does that mean? Zyra's golden eyes flicked across the glowing screen, scanning the data. We are no longer heading toward the diplomatic council. Our course has been manually altered. Stylo's expression was grim. We do not know where we are going. Ryan cursed under his breath. All right, let's not panic. Can you override the navigation system? Zyra's fingers danced across the controls. I am trying. She pressed a command. The screen flashed ACCESDNID. Silo growled. Whoever did this locked us out of our own ship. Ryan exhaled sharply. Okay, so someone on board doesn't want you two making this alliance happen. And now they're taking us somewhere else. Not exactly a friendly move. He pulled up the ship's internal map. If someone had tampered with the controls, they had to be somewhere. There. Ryan pointed at a maintenance access room near the bridge. That's where your manual navigation relays are, right? Zyra nodded. Yes. But why? Because whoever hijacked this ship is probably in there right now. Zylo straightened. Then we must go now. Tracking the intruder. Ryan moved quickly, leading the twins through the sleek corridors of the ship. The walls pulsed with soft blue light, but the atmosphere felt different now, like an unseen presence was lurking in the shadows. Ryan's mind raced as they walked. Who was the saboteur? Was it a member of their crew? A stowaway? Someone working for the isolationists? One thing was certain, they weren't alone on this ship. Zyra's voice was soft but urgent. If the intruder has control of the ship's systems, they may know we are coming. Ryan glanced at her. Then we'll just have to be faster. Confrontation in the shadows. As they approached the maintenance room, Ryan slowed his steps. The door ahead was slightly open, a dim red light flickering inside. He motioned for Zyra and Silo to stay back, then carefully peeked inside. A lone figure stood over the navigation console. The person wore a dark blue uniform, their face hidden by a hood. Their hands moved quickly across the controls, inputting commands Ryan couldn't understand. Ryan took a slow breath. Time to act. Hey, he called out. I think you're in the wrong room. The figure spun around. Ryan barely had time to react before they lunged at him. He dodged to the side as the intruder swung a small shock blade, its edge sparking with blue energy. The blade sliced through the air, missing him by inches. Zyra and Silo moved in, their twin forms mirroring each other. The intruder hesitated for a moment, just enough time for Ryan to grab a loose cable from the wall and swing it toward them. The cable smacked against the attacker's arm, causing them to stumble back. Silo took the chance to move forward. His four hands moved in perfect synchronization, striking with precision. The intruder tried to counter, but against two perfectly coordinated twins, they had no chance. Within seconds, Zyra and Silo pinned the attacker against the console. Ryan stepped forward, breathing hard. All right, time to see who's behind the mask. The truth revealed. Zyra reached out and pulled back the intruder's hood. Underneath was a Sci-Fi, just like Zura and Tylo. But unlike them, his expression was cold and full of hatred. Silo's eyes widened. Vexen. Ryan frowned. You two know him. Zura's voice was heavy. He is one of the strongest supporters of the isolationist movement. Vexen struggled against their grip. You are betraying our people, he spat. We do not need the humans. We do not need anyone. Ryan crossed his arms. Yeah. And what's your plan, genius? Steal the ship and fly us into deep space. Vexen smirked. I do not need to take the ship anywhere. I only need to delay you long enough for the council meeting to be cancelled. Ryan's stomach dropped. Wait, how long until the meeting starts? Zira checked her wrist console. We were scheduled to arrive in 1 hour. Vexen laughed. And thanks to me, your ship has been diverted 2 hours off course. By the time you fix it, the council will have left. Your mission will fail. Ryan's fists clenched. Oh, you have got to be kidding me. A last-minute gamble. Ryan turned to the navigation console. Vexen had locked them out, but there had to be a way to reset the course manually. Silo frowned. Even if we stop him, we do not have clearance to override the controls. He has locked the main system behind a security code. Ryan smirked. Yeah. Lucky for you, I'm pretty good at multitasking. He sat down at the console, stretching his arms. He placed one hand on the navigation reset, the other on the security override. Zira watched as his hands moved independently, entering 2 separate codes at once. With Vexen securely restrained in the Celestial Harmony's holding cell, Ryan, Zira, and Silo rushed back to the bridge. The ship was finally back on course, but they had lost an hour due to the sabotage. The diplomatic council meeting was still happening, but if they didn't arrive on time, the chance for an alliance between humans and the Sci-Fi would be gone forever. Ryan slid into the pilot's seat. All right, how much longer until we reach the meeting point? Zira checked the readings. At our current speed, 55 minutes. Ryan's stomach dropped. And how long until the council gives up and leaves? Silo's jaw tightened. 45 minutes. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. Great, so we're getting there 10 minutes too late. Zira's voice was tense. If we miss this, the isolationists will claim victory. They will convince our leaders that cooperation with humans is a mistake. Silo nodded, and our people will remain divided. Ryan exhaled sharply. Well, that's not happening. We need to go faster. A dangerous idea. Rand scanned the ship's systems. The Celestial Harmony had a powerful engine, but it wasn't designed for sudden bursts of speed. Pushing it too hard could cause system failure. But they didn't have a choice. What if we boost the engines? Ryan asked. Zira frowned. That is dangerous. This ship is meant for precision, not speed. If we push the engines beyond their limits, they could overheat or shut down completely. Ryan smirked. Then we just have to make sure that doesn't happen. Silo crossed his arms. And how do you propose we do that? Ryan leaned back. You two said before that your ship needs 2 systems managed at the same time, right? One to increase power, one to keep the cooling system stable. Zira's eyes widened. You mean to manually balance the power and coolant while flying? Ryan grinned. Exactly. Silo hesitated. That is impossible for us. Ryan cracked his knuckles. Yeah, but not for me. Pushing the limits. Ryan grabbed the flight controls while stretching his left hand toward the engine power system and his right hand toward the coolant stabilizer. Zira and Tylo watched in disbelief. No Sci-Fi pilot had ever attempted controlling all 3 at once. Ryan smirked. Hold on tight. He pushed the throttle forward, increasing the ship's speed. The engines roared louder, vibrations shaking the ship. Warning, engine overload detected. Before the system could shut down, Ryan's right hand adjusted the coolant valves, stabilizing the heat. The warning dimmed. Thylo's eyes widened. He is actually doing it. Zira whispered, "This is impossible." Ryan grinned. "Not impossible. Just human." The ship blasted forward, cutting their travel time. But the strain on the systems grew worse. BEP, BEP. Engine pressure rising. Ryan's left hand increased power, while his right hand adjusted coolant flow. Every second counted. The ship shook violently, alarms flashing. The celestial harmony was never meant for this kind of stress. Zira called out, "We are reaching our limit." Ryan gritted his teeth. Just a little more. The final stretch. The navigation screen blinked. They were 5 minutes away. Thylo's voice was urgent. "The Council is preparing to leave." Ryan's hands moved rapidly across the controls. He had one last move. "We're going to cut power to everything except the engines." Zira's eyes widened. "But that will shut down." Ryan pressed the command. The lights flickered out. The shields powered down. The auxiliary systems went silent. All power went straight to the engines. The ship lurched forward, moving at speeds it was never meant to reach. The stars outside blurred as the celestial harmony surged ahead, cutting across the void like a comet. Zira checked the readings. "We are arriving in 30 seconds. Ryan exhaled. "Told you we'd make it." The arrival. The ship burst out of hyperspeed, coming to a halt just above the Council station. The diplomatic fleet was already preparing to leave, but as soon as the celestial harmony arrived, the Council ships stopped in their tracks. A transmission came through. "Sci-Fi vessel, you are late, but you have arrived." Zira turned to Ryan, her expression filled with admiration. "You did it," she whispered. Ryan leaned back in his seat, breathing hard. "Yeah, no big deal." Xylo shook his head in disbelief. "I cannot believe that worked." Ryan smirked. "You should really start believing in humans." Zira smiled. "I think we already do." The celestial harmony hovered just above the massive Council station, its hull still glowing faintly from the strain of the high-speed flight. Inside the ship, Ryan leaned back in his seat, finally allowing himself to breathe. Zira tapped the controls, stabilizing the power systems. "The Council ships have stopped their departure," she confirmed. Silo nodded, his 4 hands adjusting the ship's scanners. "They are hailing us now." A holographic screen flickered to life, displaying the Seraphis Council chamber, a grand hall where multiple alien species sat in curved rows, their faces full of curiosity and suspicion. At the center of the image stood Councillor Varen, a tall, regal Sci-Fi elder with deep green skin and piercing golden eyes. "Zira," Xylo Varen said, his voice calm but firm. "You arrive in dramatic fashion. We expected you earlier." Zira straightened. "Counselor, we apologize for the delay. Our ship was sabotaged." Varen's gaze sharpened. "Sabotaged?" Ryan stepped forward. "Yeah, by one of your own. Some guy named Vexen didn't want you talking to humans, so he hijacked the ship to make sure you never made it." A murmur spread across the Council chamber. Some Sci-Fi delegates exchanged uneasy glances, while others looked at Ryan with clear distrust. Varen's expression remained unreadable. "And who is this human?" Zira answered immediately. "This is Ryan, the engineer who saved our mission." Silo nodded. "Without him, we would not be here." Varen studied Ryan for a long moment. "A human helped you override a full system lockdown. He corrected your course. He piloted the celestial harmony here." Zira lifted her chin. "Yes." Another council member, an older Sci-Fi with silver markings on his skin, frowned. "Impossible. No human could multitask at the level required to do all of that." Ryan smirked. "Yeah. Well, I did." The council chamber fell silent. Varen finally nodded. "If this is true, then perhaps humanity has more to offer than we believed." Inside the council chambers. Minutes later, Ryan followed Zira and Silo through the massive council halls. The architecture was stunning. Smooth silver walls, glowing blue pathways, and floating platforms where delegates moved from place to place. Ryan whistled. Fancy place. You guys really know how to make things look impressive. Zira gave a small smile. The Seraphis Council is the heart of intergalactic diplomacy. Silo walked beside them, his expression serious. This meeting will decide whether our people open relations with humanity or remain isolated. Ryan rolled his shoulders. No pressure, then. They entered the main chamber, where dozens of alien representatives sat in their designated seats. Some were reptilian, others insectoid, and a few were strange, floating beings with no clear form. At the center sat Counselor Varen, watching as Zyra and Silo took their places. Ryan remained standing. He wasn't a diplomat. He was just a guy who knew how to fix things. But he also knew that this wasn't just about fixing ships anymore. It was about fixing trust. The debate begins. Varen spoke first. Zyra, Silo, present your case. Zyra took a breath. The Siloquan people have always believed in knowledge and advancement. But we cannot grow if we remain alone. Silo nodded. The humans offer us new perspectives, technology, and strategy. They have achieved great things, not because they are stronger or more advanced, but because they are adaptable. A skeptical Siloquan spoke up. Adaptable, or reckless. Ryan sighed. Look, I get it. You guys are calculated, precise, and careful. And that's great. But sometimes you need to be able to think on your feet. You need to handle more than one thing at a time. The council members murmured. Ryan smirked. Take me, for example. Your ship was locked down, hijacked, and off course. You would have needed 2 pilots, 2 engineers, and a security team to fix it. I did it alone. The skeptical Siloquan frowned. You expect us to believe that? Zyra lifted a data tablet. We have recorded proof. Varen gestured for the council assistant to display the footage. The holographic screens lit up, showing Ryan working the ship's controls, piloting, rerouting power, and adjusting coolant, all at once. The chamber fell dead silent. Then a deep, gravelly voice spoke. One of the other alien representatives, a large armored creature with glowing red eyes, leaned forward. Your kind can do this naturally. Ryan shrugged. Well, not all of us. But yeah, multitasking is kind of our thing. Varen studied the footage carefully. Then he turned to the council. This is proof that humanity's strengths are unique, he said, and that an alliance may bring unexpected advantages. The skeptical Siloquan hesitated. But can we trust them? Ryan met his gaze. Look, I'm not asking you to trust every human, just like not every Siloquan is trustworthy. You saw that with Bexon. The council chamber was silent. Ryan stood with Zyra and Silo, his hands clenched into fists as the Seraphis Council prepared to cast their votes. The entire room was filled with powerful leaders from across the galaxy, some skeptical, some curious, and some openly hostile to the idea of humans joining their alliance. Counselor Varen's voice echoed through the chamber. We will now decide. Should the Siloquan open relations with humanity? Should we recognize them as allies? A large floating screen appeared in the air, showing 3 options. Yes, form an alliance with humanity. No, keep humans at a distance. Delay. Study them further before deciding. Ryan's heart pounded. He had faced danger before. Sabotage, high-speed chases, even near-death moments in space. But this was different. This wasn't just about him. This was about humanity's future. Divided opinions. The first vote came from an elder Siloquan diplomat, her green skin shimmering under the chamber's light. I vote no, she said firmly. Humans are unpredictable and reckless. They do not belong in our delicate diplomacy. Ryan exhaled through his nose. Great. Off to a fantastic start. Next, a tall, insectoid alien with glowing eyes tapped his vote. Yes, human ingenuity is impressive, he buzzed. I vote in favor. A deep voice rumbled. One of the largest delegates, a four-armed, armored warrior, crossed his arms. They are strong, he admitted, but strength is not enough. I vote DELA. The vote screen updated. Yes. 1. No. 1. DELA. 1. Ryan clenched his jaw. The votes were all over the place. More council members made their choices. Yes. 3. No. 4. DELA. 3. 0 whispered. This is too close. Silo nodded. We need 5 votes for yes to win. Ryan swallowed. Come on. We're so close. The final votes. A blue-skinned alien with sharp features stood. I have studied human history, she said. They learned quickly. I vote yes. Yes. 4. No. 4. DELA. 3. The final vote belonged to Varen. The entire chamber waited. Varen looked at Zyra, Xylo, then Ryan. His golden eyes studied Ryan carefully, as if searching for something. Then, finally, I vote yes. Yes. 5. No. 4. DELA. 3. Humanity's first step. A deep chime echoed through the hall, signaling the decision. Councillor Varen spoke, his voice clear. By the decision of the Seraphis Council, humanity is now an officially recognized ally of the Sile-Quen people. Ryan exhaled sharply. They did it. Zira smiled, and Silo gave a small nod of approval. The council chamber buzzed with mixed reactions. Some were pleased, others clearly frustrated, but the decision was final. A new chapter had begun. After the vote. As the council meeting ended, Varen approached them. Human, he said, addressing Ryan directly. You have proven yourself resourceful. But this alliance is only the beginning. Your people must not waste this opportunity. Ryan smirked. Trust me, we won't. Zira added, we will begin working on the official agreements right away. Varen gave a slow nod. See that you do. Then, turning, he walked away, disappearing into the high halls of the council. Ryan let out a breath. That was intense. Silo smirked slightly. You handled it well. Zira nudged Ryan playfully. 2 hands, 2 tasks, and 1 historic victory. Ryan chuckled. Guess that makes me the first human diplomat. Zyra laughed. More like the first human troublemaker in the Seraphis Council. Ryan grinned. Same thing. As they left the council chambers, the weight of what had just happened sank in. Humanity had just earned a seat at the table. But Ryan knew this was only the beginning. The Seraphis Council's decision had been made. Humanity was now an official ally of the Sile-Quen. But not everyone was happy about it. As Ryan, Zira, and Silo walked back toward their ship, the celestial harmony, a sense of unease, settled over them. Ryan noticed it first. The air felt heavier, the halls quieter than before. He had been in dangerous situations before, and his instincts were screaming at him now. We're being watched, he muttered. Zira frowned. Are you sure? Silo's 4 hands flexed. I feel it too. They quickened their pace. The massive halls of the council station were usually filled with diplomats and officials, but now they seemed strangely empty. Ryan's mind raced. Someone doesn't want this alliance to happen. And he had a pretty good idea who. An old enemy returns. As they turned a corner, a dark figure stepped into their path. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Oh great, it's you. Vexen. The Sile-Quen trader who had tried to sabotage their ship now stood before them, a cold smile on his face. You should have never made it to this station, Vexen said. You have ruined everything. Zira stepped forward. You betrayed your own people. The council knows about you now. Vexen chuckled. The council. They are blind. They think 1 vote changes everything. But I still have allies. Ryan's stomach dropped as more figures emerged from the shadows. Armed Sile-Quen operatives, their eyes burning with hatred. Silo's voice was low. This is an ambush. Vexen nodded. And this time, you won't escape. Fight or flight. Ryan moved first. He grabbed Zyra's arm and pulled her back, just as a blast of energy fire shot past them. Silo dodged to the side, his hands reaching for a small shock blade hidden in his belt. Run, Ryan shouted. They sprinted down the corridor, lasers blasting behind them. The enemy had the advantage. They knew the station better. They had weapons, and they had numbers. But Ryan had something they didn't. Zyra, map, he barked. She quickly pulled up a holographic blueprint of the station. Left, then straight to docking bay C. They turned sharply, Ryan moving on pure instinct, his mind working in overdrive. He grabbed a loose power cable from the wall and yanked it free as he ran. Behind them, Vexen's men closed in. Ryan skidded to a stop and swung the cable at a control panel. Sparks flew as the doors slammed shut between them and the enemy. That won't hold them long, Silo said. Doesn't have to, Ryan panted. Just needs to slow them down. Reaching the ship, they burst into docking bay C, where the Celestial Harmony was waiting. But as soon as they arrived, Zyra froze. No, she whispered. Ryan followed her gaze and felt his stomach drop. The ship's entrance was guarded. More of Vexen's men stood between them and their only escape. We're surrounded, Zylo said grimly. Ryan's eyes darted around the hangar. His mind raced. 2 hands, 2 tasks, 1 goal. Then he saw it, a control panel near the ceiling. It was connected to the bay's emergency system. He turned to Zyra. How fast can you disable their weapons? She hesitated. Maybe 10 seconds, but do it. Ryan grabbed a nearby maintenance ladder and climbed fast, ignoring the shouts from the guards below. Zylo moved in front of Zyra, blocking incoming fire as she hacked into the system. Ryan reached the control panel, his fingers flying over the buttons. Below, Vexen's men raised their weapons. Then everything exploded into chaos. The turnaround. Zyra's hack effect first. The enemy's weapons overloaded, sparking in their hands. Some of them dropped their blasters, clutching burned fingers. Ryan finished his part a second later. The gravity field in the hangar fluctuated wildly. Vexen's men suddenly floated off the ground, struggling as the artificial gravity shifted between 0G and full force. Silo didn't waste time. He grabbed Zyra and sprinted to the ship. Ryan jumped, the wild gravity pulling him toward the ramp of the Celestial Harmony. Silo caught his arm and hauled him inside. Zyra slammed the controls, and the ship's doors sealed shut. Go, 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 Ryan shouted. The Celestial Harmony roared to life, lifting off the ground just as Vexen and his men fought against the unstable gravity. Vexen's furious voice crackled over the comms. This isn't over, human. Ryan smirked as he strapped himself into the seat. Yeah. Well, good luck chasing us when you're stuck on the ceiling. Escaping into the stars. The ship blasted out of the docking bay, leaving the chaos behind. Ryan let out a deep breath. They had made it. Zyra turned to him, eyes wide. That was insane. Silo nodded, but effective. Ryan grinned. 2 hands, 2 tasks. You guys really need to start trusting humans more. Zyra chuckled. I think we already do. But as the station disappeared behind them, Ryan knew one thing for sure. Vexen wasn't done with them yet. And the real fight was only beginning. The Celestial Harmony streaked through space, its engines burning bright as it sped away from the Council station. The ship had taken some damage, but it was still flying. Barely. Ryan sat in the co-pilot's seat, hands moving quickly over the controls. His heart was still racing from the escape. Behind them, enemy ships were in pursuit. Zyra glanced at the scanners. 4 ships are following us. They're fast. Zylo's voice was calm. They will not stop until we are destroyed. Ryan smirked. Yeah, well, I don't plan on getting destroyed today. The ship shook as enemy fire grazed the shields. Sparks flew from the control panel. "Shields at 60%, Zyra warned. Ryan clenched his jaw. They needed a plan. Fast. A risky plan. Ryan's eyes scanned the star map. Then he saw something, an asteroid field nearby. It was dense, full of floating rocks and debris. "Perfect." He pointed. "Take us in there." Zyra's eyes widened. "Are you crazy? That place is unstable." Ryan grinned. "Exactly. They won't expect us to go in." Silo nodded. "It is dangerous, but it may be our only option." Zyra sighed. "Fine. But if we die, I'm blaming you." Ryan chuckled. "Fair deal." The chase in the asteroid field. The celestial harmony dove into the asteroid field, weaving between giant floating rocks. The enemy ships hesitated for a moment, then followed. Ryan grabbed the co-pilot controls. "Zyra, focus on speed. I'll handle the maneuvers." She nodded, pushing the engines to the limit. Silo monitored the enemy's movement. "They are closing in." Ryan's mind raced. He had to think fast. Then he spotted a massive asteroid, spinning slowly. If they timed it right. "Zyra, when I say now, cut the engines for 2 seconds." "What?" "That'll leave us drifting. Just trust me." She hesitated, then nodded. The enemy ships were right behind them. Ryan counted the seconds. 3, 2, now. Zyra cut the engines. For 2 seconds, the celestial harmony drifted, just as the giant asteroid spun past, barely missing them. The enemy ships weren't so lucky. One of them slammed into the asteroid, exploding on impact. The others swerved wildly, breaking formation. Zyra restarted the engines instantly, and the ship shot forward. Ryan whooped. "Told you to trust me." Zyra shook her head, smiling. That was insane. Silo checked the scanners. 2 enemy ships remain. Ryan exhaled. "Let's finish this." Turning the tables. The remaining ships were still chasing them, but now the celestial harmony had an advantage. Ryan's mind worked fast. 2 hands, 2 tasks, 1 goal. "Zyra, switch all power to rear shields." She frowned. "That'll leave our front unprotected." "Exactly. We need them to think we're weak." Silo understood first. "You want them to take the bait." Ryan grinned. "Yep." The enemy ships sped up, sensing weakness. They moved in for the final shot. Ryan waited. Then. Now. Zyra reversed the engines, sending the ship backward for a split second, just as the enemy ships rushed forward. At the same time, Silo fired the ship's front cannons. The first enemy ship exploded instantly. The second ship tried to turn, but it was too late. Ryan jerked the controls, sending the celestial harmony spinning sideways just as the last ship slammed into an asteroid. A bright fireball erupted behind them. The battle was over. Victory and the future. Ryan leaned back in his seat, breathing hard. "Well, that was fun." Zyra rolled her eyes. "Your definition of fun is very different from mine." Silo checked the scanners. "No more enemies detected. We are safe, for now." Ryan grinned. "See, 2 hands, 2 tasks, 1 goal. That's how humans do things." Zyra chuckled. "I'll admit, you were impressive." Ryan stretched. "So, what now?" Zyra smiled. Now, we go home. We have a lot of work ahead." Silo nodded. This was just the beginning. As the celestial harmony flew toward the stars, Ryan looked out at the vast galaxy ahead. Humanity had earned its place. And Ryan, he was just getting started.